Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Boisterous coming to you with some Masters League Magnificence out of the map Echelon Flats. I started out that kind of thing with some saliva in my mouth, so you might have heard like a little bit of a like. But anyway, spawning up here in the top of the left-hand corner, we do have as the Red Terran, and down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we do have Tsteak, with a much easier to pronounce name and a much more average name, to be quite perfectly honest. However, I do enjoy pronouncing sometimes, because let's be honest, it's funner, it's more entertaining, it's a very cool name. And I know that everyone bitches about barcode names, but I like them, because when I have to pronounce a barcode name, that's the noise I can make, and I can make it however long I want. I think in one of the videos earlier that I did with Kadoink, I just did it for like 45-50 seconds in a row. I mean, Kadoink was kind of pissed at me, but I didn't care. Nothing was happening in the game. So I figured I would just go with, like, you know, a little bit of IlIlIlIlIlII. So anyway, in this game so far, nothing too interesting happening. Neither player really committing to attack, really just going for what you go for, because it's a fairly standard TVZ on a fairly balanced map. Then I don't know, it kind of favors the Zerg, because the Zerg has a very easy third and fourth, whereas the Terran, you know, you have to kind of spread yourself out just a little bit to be able to expand out to your third and fourth, and it can get a little bit awkward, but it's typically pretty fair. It's pretty easy to hold everything for both players. So anyway, I'm going to move right on into announcements. Just by the way, you know, the next Lore of StarCraft episode is coming up later this week. I will, of course, be on it. I'm not sure how much I can actually announce about it, but, you know, it is on the Overmind. That I know I can say, and the Overmind's a fun character. I think you guys are going to enjoy the conversation, because he's a very kind of split character. He's very much for the Zerg Swarm, but then also with his corruption as far as the Dark Voice goes, you have that kind of interesting duality where he needs to, or he has like this literally deep-seated need to destroy the Protoss, even though he doesn't want to, because he knows that the Zerg are going to go down if he does something like that, and that kind of leads to the creation of Kerrigan, and it's really cool, and you guys should definitely tune in for that. There's going to be more news later about that episode, because we're doing something kind of cool for it, you know, we're kind of big deals, but anyway, again, don't know if I'm allowed to tell you that yet, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Yeah, that's right, teasing the announcements. Alright, well, we do have Tsteak going for the spawning pool first, and the extractor a little bit late, but pretty standard, considering the fact that he went for the hatchery at like 17 or 17 to 19, somewhere in that range. I think he was more like a 17 hatch, but, you know, it worked out pretty well. We do have the command center coming down on the low ground for which is pretty normal in this type of matchup. It's very hard for Zerg players to do a lot of damage early game, especially as soon as you get a couple of Marines out, because it's really easy to micro Marines against Zerglings and just minimize damage, because if you can get to a good position, it's going to be extremely hard for Zerglings to break through your line with any number, especially if they don't have speed. It looks like we are going to have the Expeditionary Force of 4 Zerglings now moving out across the center of the map. I'm surprised they're not taking the Xel'Naga Watchtower, because something really cool about this map is that that you can actually get a solid wall of vision across the middle of the map if you take all the Xel'Nagas. I don't think there is actually an area. There might be like a little tiny thin air passageway right down the middle here that you're not able to see, but everything else is fair game. It looks like we do have the Zerglings doing a bit of damage to the bunker, being quite annoying, sniping off an SCV that was building it. Actually, sniping off a couple of SCVs, which is, it's not bad. A couple SCVs for Zergling, probably worth it. Actually, you know, definitely worth it. The only issue is that he's actually creating a lot of Zerglings that he should not be making. It would appear that the Zerglings are going to start moving up to take these Xel'Naga Watchtowers. There's going to be no one moving up to take this right one. A little bit of an interesting choice. And it looks like the left one was kind of just tagging it, making sure that he got the vision. And there we go. And in fact, it is a solid wall of vision across the middle of the map if you take all 4. That's a pretty these are some powerful Xel'Naga Watchtowers, like on the caliber that we haven't seen since Tal'Darim Altar. Because Tal'Darim Altar's Xel'Naga Watchtowers were like so key on that map. It was so important to have those Xel'Nagas, because if you had those Xel'Nagas, you knew exactly where your opponent was at every moment they tried to move out, and it was really fancy. It was a cool way to do things, and I kind of like those Xel'Nagas more than I like Xel'Nagas that aren't really all that effectual. I'm trying to think of good examples, but none are really coming to mind. Anyway, we do have the bust coming out for Tsteak, and actually it's going to do a reasonable amount of damage. There is no wall off at the main base, and that is very important. We do have the SCVs holding their own at the front. However, we are going to see quite a few SCVs going down here along with the Marines. It makes this Zergling attack actually very, very effective. It looks like this Zergling might... Oh, it gets an SCV kill. What a hero, tossing himself in the line of battle, managing to take out an SCV with just 8 health left. That SCV literally could have turned around at any moment before it started taking damage and killed it off, but he did not. He just absolutely championed his way through that. Nice job to Tsteak. He's doing quite a bit of damage right now. He's putting on the pressure quite nicely. It looks like we do have 3 Hellions now moving out across the center of the map, but they really don't have any amount of scouting information. There are the Zerglings. They're doing a little bit of a run around, a little bit awkward. It looks like we do have a couple of the Hellions going down, and if they turn to shoot again, they are going to get absolutely surrounded. In fact, one of them might get surrounded anyway, and there we do have the surround going down on 1 Hellion. There is only 3 Hellions currently out. And interestingly enough, he's going to be going for Banshee, even though the Zerg player has seen absolutely everything about this. He is definitely going for Banshee. Not the best decision in the world for... I did that for a little bit long, but, you know, it's still not the best decision in the world at all. I really don't like Banshees when your opponent literally runs up the ramp and is like, oh, there's a tech lab on a starport, and the tech lab is building anything. You're probably going Ravens, because if anybody does that, you're silly. You are a silly person. Anyway, we do have 3 more racks coming out for IlIlIlIlII, so it looks like we are going to have a little bit of a transition into a bio play after this, which isn't an awful decision considering how much money he was banking before he started building these. It looks like we do have more drones popping out for Tsteak. There is no current plans on a 3rd hatchery yet. I would not be surprised to see one coming down here, as he has not yet busted down the destructible rocks over here. It looks like there are 2 spine crawlers currently finished for Tsteak. There is a spore crawler in each of the mineral lines, which is going to keep him relatively safe from the Banshees. Banshees are, of course, able to snipe off kind of fringe workers with spore crawlers in the middle, but it's very difficult to get to those central workers. It looks like Cloak has finished, and there is a couple of Banshees now moving out. And these Banshees might be able to do a significant amount of damage. There is another spore crawler coming up. Where is that spore crawler coming up? Right there. So that spore crawler is going to be in a nice position to be able to hopefully fight off the Banshees. Actually, all 3 of these spore crawlers are in quite nice positions. I'm surprised there hasn't been a couple more in the main base, as that is a pretty important spot to defend, but I'm actually not really all that surprised. There are quite a few Hellions right now, but they really don't have the actual manpower to move out onto this creep. I guess he can do a little bit of creep sweeping if he uses his scans well. However, if he does this wrong, he's just going to lose all of his Hellions. There we do have a couple of creep tumors going down, but it's nothing super effectual. In fact, I don't think killing off those 3 creep tumors will actually cause any creep to recede at all. So definitely not the most effectual. It looks like we are going to have to deny on the hatchery. There we go. All right, the deny does finish off, and it does go down. And this queen is going to be trying to be a little bit ballsy and trying to fight the Banshees, but it's not going to work out as they do have Cloak. So we do have the queen sort of backing off. Definitely the correct decision here. The hatchery is going down again. You literally just saw the Banshees. You know the Banshees are there. Why are you dropping a hatchery? Alright, so there are the Banshees swinging again, hitting the hatchery quite a bit. And oh, the hatchery does get canceled. And at this point, these Banshees are kind of just getting fed free drones. There is... yeah, definitely just getting fed free drones. It looks like there's a spore crawler currently set up in the natural in nice positions to be able to hold these guys off. They're a little bit far away from the mineral line for my comfort right now. Actually, they're a lot far away from the mineral line for my comfort right now. However, with the queen's support, it should be reasonably effective. It looks like we're going to have a little bit of a burrow happening here, but that's going to be awkward to say the least. 2 of these spore crawlers should be able to hold this position reasonably well. They are going to be inching forward here. I'm surprised he unburrowed the second one while he was unburrowing the first one, but not too surprised. And there we are going to see something effectual start happening for our blue Zerg player. But in the meantime, IlIlIlIlII has been completely setting up very well. He does have the 3rd base completed before the Zerg player. He has just been able to stall so much with these Banshee attacks that he's actually started to take the lead in this game, which is very, very important. It's very nice to be able to go for some sort of harassment-based build like Liz Terran did and just absolutely take over the game. Because, you know, you cancel 3 hatcheries, suddenly your opponent's down a little bit. He's down on time, he's down on workers, he's down on minerals. It's all around painful. And at the same time, seeing your third, quite important. So we do have Tsteak getting a full scout off. He is going to see everything. He's going to see all the production. He's going to see the double engineering bay. He's going to see the solo armory. He's going to know that Thors are a possibility, but it's most likely just going to be +1 siege tanks, which of course do a lot of damage to Zerglings. It looks like we currently do have roaches coming out for Tsteak in massive numbers. Galil Claws or Galil Reconstitution is on the way. I would be unsurprised to see burrowing claws. That's the name of the upgrade coming up after that, along with maybe a burrow upgrade. Although maybe not. I would be surprised to at least not see a burrow upgrade, because roaches are very good if you can do that rapid regeneration and gather their health back quite fastly. It looks like he's finally going to be knocking down the destructible rocks right here and taking his 4th base. So that's going to be a nice spot for the economy for Tsteak. He is kind of stepping back into this game, but it's still a little bit on the awkward side. It looks like he was just knocking down those rocks to about half health so that he can come through with his squad and sweep them out of the way if it is completely necessary. But he really doesn't want quite the easy access for the Terran player, because it's a double-sided sword to take out those destructible rocks. It's very helpful to yourself, but it's also very helpful to your opponent if they're just trying to push through your bases. It looks like we do have the Hive and the Spire on the way for our Zerg players, so there are going to be Broodlords on the way. Very, very fancy plays. I love Broodlord plays. They're very, very fun to watch. And you know, Broodlord armies are just cool. They throw little tiny free guys, and then everybody bitches about them because their guys are free, even though Broodlords are like some of the most expensive units in the game. Anyway, we do have a lot of barracks currently going up and a lot of reactors on those barracks. In fact, it's going to be 7 barracks, 6 of them have reactors, so he is going to be up to 12 Marines and 1 Marauder up production cycle, which is a lot. But the push from IlIlIlIlII is coming out right now. There are 4 infestors on the way. They will have the energy for a couple of fungal growths each, but it's only 4 infestors. That's not really a massive amount of infestors. That's not really a large enough amount of infestors to actually deal a significant amount of damage to this army. And Tsteak is going to start walking into a little bit of trouble here. All of the creep has been swept up, so now IlIlIlIlII kind of just needs to hold back and wait a little bit. It looks like we do have the infestors currently out right now, and that was a silly move out. He was trying to snipe the infestors, but it didn't work out at all. It looks like we do have siege tanks sieging up, but there's not a lot of them. And in fact, the Roach army might just be able to push us back completely. What the hell? That was a very, very silly engagement from the Terran player. I don't know why you would do that. Because, you know, that was silly. I don't know why you would put your siege tanks up at front against a roach army, because siege tanks do a lot of damage to roaches. A lot of people don't actually, know that. Actually, no, most people know that. I won't lie to you guys, but it was just kind of stupid. It should have had his tanks back like here, and just gone for a little bit of like a tank, an octopusing Terran player. That was the old name for it, where they kind of move up their bioforces up here while keeping like half of them here, just to snipe off the hatchery, because your Zerg opponent needs to go by ground to try to stop it. And if he goes by ground, he's going to get siege tanked. And if he tries to bust through the siege tank, you can pull your forces back while your bio kind of acts as meat shields for your siege tanks. But really, with such a low siege tank numbers, it was just a bad situation for IlIlIlIlII. It looks like we do have the Greeter Spire now coming up, along with an Ultralisk Cavern. So Tsteak is kind of going for every form of tech he can, which I really, really do like. Especially when you're getting the upgrades for your melee and for your melee armor. It's very nice to be able to switch right on into Ultralisks, because Ultralisks do a crap ton of damage, and they can take quite the beating. It looks like we have a little bit of an Overseer just hanging out here, It's all good. He's not going to get sniped. He's fine. Along with, 3 changelings in the army, 4 morphlings in the army. Oh my god, that's a lot of changelings. And it looks like IlIlIlIlII hasn't even noticed that. And, Okay, they have now successfully walked in with the army, and here they go. It looks like we do have the Overseer getting a little bit of sniping action done. And here comes the army from Tsteak. A nice engagement. There is no siege on the siege tanks, and that was a very, very poor engagement for IlIlIlIlI again. Very poor. Wow. It looks like he's still going to win, but unless he manages to snipe off these infestors, which, okay, he's going to be able to snipe off the infestors because they have no energy, and they have no backup, and they have no burrow, and those are all three very important things to have. However, I mean, Tsteak is still in a pretty reasonable advantage. He will be able to recreate a lot of those infestors, or he'll just build 6 Ultralisks, because screw you, that's why. So there are going to be a lot of Ultralisks on the way. And just by the way, the cost of a Broodlord is a Corruptor cost plus the Broodlord cost. I think it's like 400, 250. I mean, it's like Battlecruiser. And granted, Broodlord is much better than the Battlecruiser, but still, I mean, you know, it's expensive as hell to build. I don't know why people say it's a free unit. It bothers the hell. It's one of my pet peeves. Because Broodlings aren't free units. They come out of a Broodlord. And if you snipe off the Broodlord before you manage to actually do enough damage with the Broodlord to necessitate the 450 cost of the Broodlord, it's not. They're not free units. They're expensive as hell units. Anyway, we do have the Zerglings running around, being a little bit of rambunctious little fellas. They do a little bit of damage to the mining thing, and I said a lot in that sentence. That's just kind of ironic. There are currently 12 workers killed for Tsteak, so this has not been a huge harassment battle, other than at that point where IlIlIlIlIlII just built like 3 Banshees and absolutely smited through Tsteak's expansion multiple times. It's not been that big. It looks like we do have a lot of damaged medevacs there, just 1 fungal growth away from death, and that's going to be fairly key in this upcoming fight, because if he manages to land fungal growths on those extremely low health medevacs, it could actually swing quite heavily into the Zerg's favor. It looks like we do have the Zerg moving up into a position, possibly thinking about choosing an engagement quite soon here. He will... that was kind of awkward. That was not exactly the position you wanted to be in. There goes one infestor. Some nice one. Oh, wow. Some beautiful fungal growths going down on the main army. And wow, those banelings are doing a lot of damage. The siege tanks are in position, and they are finally sieged up. However, with Ultralisks there, I'm not sure if they actually do enough damage to Ultralisks to really stop this push, but in fact they do, especially if you have a large army of Marauders there. Marauders are pretty good when it comes to killing Ultralisks. And it looks like Tsteak is back in kind of an awkward position. He's building another 6 Ultralisks, so he is going to be up to 9 Ultras, which is pretty key. I mean, 9 Ultras is quite a few Ultras, but he has definitely been on the short end of the resource stick so far this game. And he, you know, actually, he is a base ahead of his opponent. He's going up to 2 bases ahead. However, IlIlIlIlIi is definitely going to snipe off this base before it finishes. Or is he? Okay, maybe not. Maybe they're just going to coexist right here. A little bit awkward. That's not exactly the position you want to be in for either player. There are currently 9 Ultralisks on the way, and kind of an F-up, to be quite perfectly honest, has transitioned into Thors. And Thors are not particularly good versus Ultralisks. I would much rather have siege tanks on my side any day over Thors when it comes to fighting against Ultralisks. Thors, you know, they do a lot of damage, but they're mostly there to kind of combat Mutalisk clumping. I mean, I guess they can be okay if you do them right, but it's 36 damage times 2 minus 5 for each attack, so minus 10 total. It's still not a whole ton of damage. It looks like we do have IlIlIlIlIi moving out with his army, and I got a little bit far away from my microphone, so it might have gotten a little bit quiet, but I'll fix this in post. I'll just take all this stuff where the sound waves are small, and I'll just boost the volume up a little bit and get it nice and big and high. It looks like we are going to have another great fungal going down on the primary force of the army. That is a lot of banelings that are going to be rolling in behind these Ultralisks, and I don't know, Tsteak might finally be able to break through this line. We are going to see all of the siege tanks go down, and IlIlIlIi is in an awkward position. He still has quite a few medevacs. However, he did not manage to kill in Ultralisk that fight, I do not believe. And IlIlIlIi just calls the GG. He knows that he's in an economic an economically bad position. Tsteak has completely started to take the map, even moving up to 7 bases at this point, which is more than you really need as a late game Zerg, but it's very nice to have those bases to instantly transition all of your drones to. But anyway, guys, if you would like your games commentated, you can send them on into boisteroussc2@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to watch any other Boisterous action, you should head on over to youtube.com/user/boisteroussc2. Also, if you would like to support lore of StarCraft, anatomy of StarCraft, and mechanics of StarCraft, which are, of course, talk shows that I occasionally appear on, you can head on over to youtube.com/user/Panera86. And that's going to be it for me for today. And this is Boisterous, signing out.